On July 19, 2009, a police officer in the area of Mount Forest, Ontario, was searching a field 500 meters off Concession Road number 6. The night Tori vanished, Rafferty's phone had pinged in the vicinity, so he had stopped to take a look after learning of this. He drove down the laneway next to the house after noticing one that was almost identical of the one McClintock had described. After a while, he came across a rock pile and the smell of decay. Finally, the location of Tori Stafford's body was confirmed. Rocks had been placed over Tori's body, which had been placed inside trash bags. Only her t-shirt and the butterfly earrings she had borrowed from her mother were on her, and she was completely naked below the waist. She was identified as having died from blunt force trauma to the head after her body was transported to Toronto for a post-mortem examination. Her physical appearance indicated that she had been beaten, as lacerations to her liver and 16 broken or fractured ribs were visible. Internal bleeding could also be seen in those indications. It was impossible to establish that she had been sexually assaulted because of the severe decomposition of the lower half of her body. Investigators, however, came to the likely conclusion that an assault had taken place based on the evidence at hand. For inspection, Rafferty's car was brought in. The back passenger side door's rubber molding had been smeared with blood, 2 different people's blood, one of them Tori. Additionally, blood and semen were discovered on the back of the front passenger seat, as well as inside a gym bag that was inside the car. Although it wasn't there when the car was impounded, witnesses claimed to have seen the back passenger seat all through the 2009 spring. Throughout the course of the trial, Rafferty's former girlfriends appeared in court in an attempt to portray his character to the jurors. Jurors were informed of his online searches for rape, child pornography, and his fantasies about torture sex that was discovered on his computer. His history as a serial cheater and the fact that he had persuaded a former girlfriend to work as an escort so he could live off her earnings. Investigators discovered about Rafferty's travel patterns with an ex-girlfriend, and the scene of Tori's murder was just minutes away. By using cell phone records and pings from a nearby cell tower, they were able to determine the exact location. This information also revealed that he had traveled through Guelph and toward Mount Forest that evening. On April 30, 2010, Terry Lynn McClintock was supposed to appear in court, but a publication prohibition prevented information about the proceedings from being made public. When it was lifted on December 9, 2010, it became clear that she had admitted guilt and had been given a 25-year term of life in jail without the possibility of release after entering a guilty plea to the charges. She was initially detained at Kitchener, Ontario's Grand Valley Institution for Women. She said that she was the one who had tricked Tori into riding in the car with her and Rafferty under the pretense of showing her a dog. She eventually changed her statement to claim that she was the one who had killed Tori after initially blaming Rafferty for the crime. Despite the fact that McClintock cannot legally apply for parole until 25 years have passed, the faint hope clause allows her to do so 15 years after her sentencing in 2024. When Canada abolished the death penalty in 1976, this law was put in place to allow people serving time for first- and second-degree murder to request judicial review in order to have their sentences reduced. In an attempt to get the Provincial Superior Court to allow a jury to hear their case and determine whether they would be eligible for early release. The goal was to encourage rehabilitation. Although the law was abolished in December 2011, everyone who received a sentence before that time is nonetheless subject to its provisions. Rafferty's trial was originally scheduled to take place in Woodstock, Ontario, but lawyers decided to move it to London, Ontario, out of worry that he might not be able to obtain a fair trial there. Pre-trial motions started in January 2012, but were prohibited from being published. Rafferty entered a not guilty plea to the counts of kidnapping, sexual assault, and first-degree murder on February 29, 2012. The case began on March 5, 2012. Rafferty sat in the prisoner's dock during the entire trial. The defense claimed that he had watched in horror as McClintock planned to abduct and kill Tori over a drug debt. She had made a sexual gift offer to him, which he had declined. He did not speak up to defend himself. Tori's teacher, one of the first to testify, said she had observed her following a woman who appeared to be in a hurry. It was found that her information had been utilized to construct a composite sketch of the woman before Terry Lynn McClintock was identified as the woman. In her testimony, Tara stated that she had seen McClintock on a few occasions, once to buy narcotics from her home and once maybe to talk about breeding their dogs. She highlighted to the jury that her daughter would never have left with a total stranger. The trial's key witness was McClintock. She described her relationship with Rafferty to the jury, claiming that they had initially met at a pizza shop and had sex that same night in his car. The relationship moved quickly, and McClintock revealed how much she cared for him and frequently bought him OxyContin. McClintock claimed that on the disputed day, she had checked in at the neighborhood employment office before leaving for home, where she had discovered Rafferty waiting in the driveway. After asking her if she would want to accompany him to Guelph, he moved toward the region around Tori's school. He then requested McClintock's assistance in kidnapping a little child. He then explained the strategy. She would kidnap a young girl since, in his opinion, they were easier to control. The two of them were parked in the Coruscant Care Retirement Home's parking area across from College Avenue Secondary School. McClintock testified to the jury. Her original strategy was to pretend to be trying to kidnap a girl before going back to Rafferty and telling him the scheme had failed. She knew he was keeping an eye on her, so she chose to approach the first kid she spotted walking alone by themselves. That child was Tori. Tori and McClintock both have Shih Tzu dogs, so after talking with Tori about their pets, McClintock was able to persuade the 8-year-old to return to her car so they could see her dogs. Tori was seated in the back seat of the vehicle, tucked beneath Rafferty's coat. She kept asking where they were headed throughout the drive, to which McClintock said that they were merely going for a drive because she was also unsure of Rafferty's final destination. They made many stops along the route, including at Tim Hortons, an ATM, and Home Depot, where McClintock bought rubbish bags and a claw hammer. McClintock asserts that she foresaw what would occur as soon as they reached the ostensibly isolated woodland spot. She claimed that after starting to masturbate while driving on the back roads, Rafferty proceeded to the back of the car and started to assault Tori sexually, during which the young girl pleaded McClintock not to leave her. After hearing Tori's screams, McClintock left the car since they brought back memories of her own childhood. She didn't return until Rafferty had laid the little girl down outside the car. After kicking her a few times, McClintock covered her head with a garbage bag and struck her with a hammer. Following that, according to McClintock, they hid Tori's body, and Rafferty washed himself off with water in McClintock's jacket, the same one that was captured on camera. They attempted to cover their tire tracks before leaving the area and stopping at a car wash to wash and shampoo the automobile. She took some OxyContin after she got home. The shoes McClintock wore on that day were a major subject of the trial. She asserted that while they were traveling down a side road, Rafferty gave her the order to toss them out the window. In April 2009, they had been discovered along a dirt road north of Guelph. As she believed Rafferty had more to lose than she had, McClintock disclosed her decision to bear the blame for the murder if the inquiry pointed to her. She said that the hammer had only ever been used by her. When questioned about her initial denial that she was the lady on the surveillance camera, McClintock claimed she had blocked out the incident and really thought she wasn't the woman in the tape. She claimed she had reached a point where she had been psychologically unable to fathom that she had killed Tori. In order to better grasp the information that was provided to them, the jury went to the location where Tori's remains were discovered during the trial. They also learned from Barbara Armstrong that Rafferty had experienced stress in the days following the murder. She sold Rafferty per coca during a stop in Guelph the night Tori was kidnapped.